go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the digital regular meeting for the Daly City Library Board of Trustees for July 21st, 2020. Before we get started, I will read the COVID-19 announcements for public meetings. Pursuant to Governor Newsom's Executive Order N2520, members of the Daly City Library Board and staff will participate in this meeting via teleconference. Members of the public are encouraged to watch the meeting via live stream and submit comments through the live stream website and/or submit public comments via email prior to the public meeting. To submit a comment in writing, please email libraryboard@dalycity.org and write public comment in the subject line. In the body of the email, include the item number and/or title of the item as well as your comments. All comments received by 4 p.m. will be emailed to the library board members and included as an add to packet on the city's website prior to the meeting. Those comments received after 4 p.m. will be added to the record and shared with the library board members for the public meeting. Persons with disabilities who require auxiliary aids or services in attending or participating in this meeting should call the Department of Library and Recreation Services as soon as possible prior to the meeting. Okay, so shall we stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Joseph, may we have roll call, please?
You may have roll call. Trustee Santos.
Present.
Trustee Rui Vivar. May be joining us soon. Trustee Faupua.
Here.
Trustee Doss.
Here.
And President Logarta.
Present. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review tonight's agenda. If there are no updates, may I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion. I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. For the minutes for our last meeting on June 16, 2020, is there a motion to move?
Motion.
Second. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. May we have our director's report?
Absolutely. Good evening, President Logarta, members of the Board of Trustees. At our last meeting, the board directed staff to draft a statement in support of Black Lives Matter. And I believe all of you have had a chance to have a peek at that. And it's during these times when we're all social distancing, it's hard to gather staff all together to have a regular discussion about it, but it's certainly something that's circulated among library staff. And as a starting point, we used a statement that was issued by the American Library Association and kind of put Daly City spin on it. And I'll go ahead and read it. And what we're looking for tonight is definitely some input from the Board of Trustees. So we're hoping this is a Board of Trustees statement as much as a library staff statement. Since good. Hello there, Alex. Anyway, so yeah, since it originated with the board, we would like the board to kind of take ownership and usher this through too. So I'll go ahead and read it unless somebody else wants to.
May I say something before we read it?
Yes, yes. Please.
Yeah, so one thing to consider, trustees, as you know, they have come up with the Black Lives Matter statement. whether we endorse it and want to add to it, and whether we want our statement to be the exact same, so it's us as a library as a whole, or do we want to come up with our own? So that's something to kind of marinate and think about.
Thank you, President Lagarta. And again, this is a draft. This hasn't been ratified or anything, so it's a living document. I'll go ahead and read it. The Daly City Public Library stands with the Black community to affirm that Black lives matter. The recent horrifying murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and too many other Black men and women brutalized and deprived of their human rights have moved the nation and the world to demand change. We pledge to educate ourselves about racial injustice, to re-examine our library programs, services, policies, and practices, and find ways to improve and to better advocate for justice, equality, and equity for all. Libraries are for everyone. The library is a place for members of our community to feel safe, to learn, and to grow. The foundation of public library services is our commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion in our programs, our services, and our collections. It is insufficient to eliminate discrimination and inequities. We must, in our words and especially our actions, build and sustain systems and support for racial equality, for racial equity. We will seek out and root racial and social equity barriers in library programs, services, policies, and practices. We will continue to create and maintain an environment of diversity, inclusion, and respect. We will strive to reach and engage disenfranchised people in the community. We will continue to build a partnership to address community challenges. We aim to cultivate true and lasting transformation. We join with those who share our commitment to a just society that stands firmly against racism and prejudice. So that is the draft statement for your consideration, and either reject, add, endorse, support, add to it. Hoping to have some discussion among the board members at this point.
Yeah, I'm still sitting with it a little bit, although I really appreciate the centering of like the purpose of libraries in the community, because for me, like when I heard about this, that's really what I was thinking about, because we know that libraries are such a critical community space, like a central space to build those. I think my first edit would be at the top, too many other Black men and women, if we can change that to people, to include non-binary folks or queer and trans folks who are also impacted by the system.
Any other comments, feedback?
Yeah, I kind of don't know.
It's a heavy subject to discuss.
Yeah.
In this environment, but
I'm thinking of the the team members we have that are diverse, the patrons that we have, and the partnerships who you work with, which would be like city council and the library board. So maybe saying something along the lines of we support our team members, we support our patrons. And I know that this is just, I think, I can fine tune it better if I kind of took a closer look at it, but something along those lines, like of us standing behind our team members, standing behind our patrons, working with the library board, working with city council to address something. You guys kind of know where I'm going here.
I thank you, Mr. Corinne. This is wonderful. And I hear what everybody's saying. I appreciate it. But we're a totally different entity from the council. I think we should stick to this. I really appreciate it. And also the fact that it's from it's a to make it uniform with all the other libraries. I, as a person, would strongly say we should stick with libraries and not to mingle together with other entities. Sounds beautiful. It says it all. And in addition to what Councilwoman Board Member Justine was saying, that if we add that to it, that will make it even better. But I like the way how it is, and we should stay with how this is said about libraries, and that we should not be entangled with other entities, even though we're all from the same city of Daly City.
Yeah, I was just saying maybe we could list like the partnerships that, you know, help the library, but I understand what you're saying too. But yeah, no, I think it's really good. I appreciate it. You know, it's such a bold, heartfelt statement. And this is a time we're in the midst of like a pandemic and social injustice. We really have to come together and support our communities. So I appreciate this.
If it helps, I don't want to put pressure on the board to feel that they have to come up with a final product tonight. You know, you can endorse what's before you with the changes you suggest. You can continue the discussion. You can endorse it and still continue the discussion. It's a living document, and like any policy in the library, it's not static forever. You know, we tweak them as we need. So if that's helping you process the action for tonight.
So when the library staff took a look at it, we put it in an online space where people could put in their comments and their suggestions. Maybe if you want to work with it, like really work with the words, that would be an option for you.
Have we looked in other libraries and see what they have adopted already, or is this just a one format straight throughout all the counties in America?
I looked at some of our neighboring libraries, and you know, they've all written something that's, you know, very specific to them. I think that a lot, obviously, it's coming from the same place because we share those values as public libraries. But there's not necessarily a template.
Then I feel that we should vote today that I agree with this one, and then we'll just stick with it.
So what we can do is we can endorse it, but if there are any updates, like Joseph said, you know, we can make changes to it as
Absolutely.
well, and then we can bring it up again on our next meeting. So do I have a motion to endorse the BLM statement that Joseph has provided?
I make a motion.
A second.
Okay. So right now we'll go ahead and endorse the BLM statement.
I don't think we voted on it. We have a motion and a second.
Okay. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you for catching that.
No problem. And before we leave this item too, I want to add that I did get a phone call. It was this morning. No, yesterday morning. Yesterday morning from the AFSCME rep. AFSCME is the union that represents most of our full-time library staff. And they're taking this issue very seriously. And they don't want just words on a paper to live on a bookshelf somewhere. They want to continue the dialogue. And they wanted me to share with you that some of the library staff are very committed to keeping this going. And they're hoping to develop, and they actually have developed a anti-racism program that they hope to launch, starting with libraries and possibly moving on in throughout AFSCME and the greater city employee workforce. I believe they've started some discussion with Teamsters as well, so that they're all coming from the same place. And it's an affirmative, positive program to affirm anti-racism. That sounds kind of backwards, but not just put words on a paper, but to actually be engaged in anti-racism. So stay tuned for that. It's a dialogue among staff. It's not something that the manager or department head will be involved in at all. So Chayla and I will not be participating in that, assuming it comes to fruition. But on the surface of I had a very brief conversation yesterday. It sounds like a wonderful starting point to keep the dialogue going, because you know, the issue is very much living in our country right now, and to ignore it after adopting or endorsing the statement, you know, is not enough. So they want to keep the dialogue going. So I wanted to thank AFSCME for starting that. And I see in our room today, we have Selena Torona, who is part of that effort. I'm sorry that I call you out unnecessarily, but it's a mix of library staff and some other staff from AFSCME. So I just want to acknowledge that before we move to the next item, which is our plan for, were there any questions about that before we move on?
No questions. That sounds really cool.
Okay. Our next item is our plan for reopening buildings to the public, library buildings specifically. And we do have a little PowerPoint. Are you going to fire that up, Chayla?
Yep, I got it now.
And I know we get questions every day, and I'm sure as trustee members, you get questions from the community too. When are the libraries going to open? When are the libraries going to open? And initially, and we're going way back to March now, I don't think any of us anticipated the closure lasting this long. And at that time, we kind of figured we would line up when schools were ready to reopen. We kind of use that as our benchmark. We'll be ready to open right there to support, you know, the kids when they're back in school. And those of you who have been following what's happening in schools in the Bay Area, it's not likely that too many schools will actually have in-person instruction coming up in the fall. So if that's still our benchmark, I don't know that we're going to open the libraries anytime soon, but that doesn't mean we haven't been preparing all along. So do you want to walk through the PowerPoint, Chayla?
Sure.
All right, I'll let Shayla's been working with a phenomenal subcommittee of library staff to develop plans for opening the library, and we've already made some great physical improvements. So go ahead and take it, Chayla.
Okay. Yeah, definitely in the vein of living documents. As Joseph said, you know, we want to make sure that we're ready when we need to be ready, but we actually don't know when that is. So the team of library staff from all of our 4 locations and from different roles within the library have been meeting and looking at research and what other libraries are doing, what other businesses are doing. So the next phase, currently we're doing curbside service and we're doing mailing still, and then we're also doing virtual programming. The next phase would be some kind of controlled access for the public. And the goal is definitely safety for the public, safety for the staff. In looking at that, we started with training staff, and one of the librarians put together a really good presentation on how COVID is spread, how to stop COVID from being spread, how to recognize symptoms, to make sure everyone is up to speed. I think pretty much everyone is glued to their news feed, so they probably already are, but just to ensure. And then implementing hygiene procedures. We have, our supplies have been provided. We have masks, we have gloves, we have hand sanitizer, and of course, soap and water. And we even have some shields for people to wear. We're obviously going to need to have social distancing or physical distancing between visitors, between staff, and between staff and visitors. So kind of each part of that requires some different arrangements. We're adding hygiene panels. This Public Works was kind enough to do that for us, and I actually have some pictures. They turned out beautifully. And then, as I mentioned, masks and other PPE. Increased cleaning and sanitizing. Our custodial staff are doing a very thorough job each day. And then once we are open, we're going to need to be doing some additional cleaning between visitors of high touch areas. And then, of course, safe handling of library materials. So there's been lots of discussion at the national level, at the state level, and of course within PLS. So physical distancing and hygiene. The way that one of the main ways that we're going to be able to ensure the distancing, especially between visitors, is by limiting the number. And the only way to do that realistically is by creating an appointment system. So we want to ensure that if we do implement an appointment system, that it's not a barrier for access to anyone. So we will be able to, we'll be making the appointments online, but anyone who does not have that kind of access can call, or even during curbside, they'd be able to make an appointment with a staff person. We would need to limit the duration of visits to ensure that there's access for as many people as want to come in. And then also schedule in intercession time so that staff can wipe things down that need to be wiped down, and rotate jobs to keep everyone kind of fresh. We have actually reduced seating and increased spacing with the furniture. None of our library furniture was made with COVID-19 in mind. So we're taking furniture out and just making sure that there's adequate space. The most challenging has been the computer labs, which of course is one of the things that I know people are going to rely on the library for. We will be adding signage. Signage has been ordered, and then we'll probably be making some of our own just to remind people about distancing and to create orderly queues and keep people, in front of the hygiene panels. And then lastly, I mentioned the glass panels that were installed, and I think I do have a picture. All 4 libraries now have them, and some of that black stuff is tape because it just is still drying, but they are actually really, I think, aesthetically not at all displeasing, and hopefully won't detract from the welcome feel that we want to have in each of the libraries. So, but it will protect us from sneezes and coughs. So staff are currently, of course, required by the city to wear face coverings, whether the library is open or not. Whenever they're working in a building and there's other people there, it creates a little bit of a challenge around people taking their meal breaks, but otherwise, everyone has been very compliant and everyone's super careful. Library visitors will be required to wear face coverings. We will have disposable ones available if people don't have them when they arrive. Gloves are worn by staff when they're handling the recently returned materials. And then of course we have hand sanitizer and hand washing facilities. And then as I mentioned, that we have some face shields, although everyone said they fogged up. Increased sanitizing and cleaning. The custodial staff are doing this daily at each of our libraries. They have a whole process they go through. We're also going to be adding we have at each of our libraries, we have like a dispenser of foamed hand sanitizer where we're going to be increasing the number of those so that, there's always one nearby if you need it. And then making sanitizing wipes available. We have a lot of things that people touch. So we want to make sure that we're cleaning those between users. We are arranging our staff areas so that we have a dedicated station for things that are recently returned, kind of like a dirty station, to avoid any cross-contamination. And staff are required to wash or sanitize their hands if they've handled any of that newly returned materials. We have a viricide that's been provided by our custodial staff, so we can wipe down all the high-touch surfaces between users, and we're covering things that might be damaged by the frequent cleaning. I just saw that delivered recently was our covers for the keyboards, the mice in the public computer lab, covers for the screens for the self-checkout machines. And then we're also removing some of the things that are non-essential that would be too difficult to clean. We have a lot of little manipulatives and little educational toys that just seem like they're going to pose more of a hazard than they need to, as well as newspapers, which is unfortunate because a lot of people do use them. And then we have our current magazines and covers. We're gonna just have those available for checkout. This actually recently had a change to it. So there is a project that's been established to do research on how the virus behaves on different, specifically library materials. And so the first phase of the project has been completed, and they tested the most common materials. So a hard cover book, a soft cover book, pages inside a book, and then the Mylar jackets that we put on the outside of books, as well as DVD cases. And so they inoculated them all with the virus and tested. So they found, and you can see on this chart here, that that this attenuation was a way to make materials safe by setting them aside essentially for 3 days was a safe period. Very recently, they did the second phase of the study and found, particularly with I think glossy pages that are stacked, that it can take a little bit longer. So there's been a discussion amongst the various libraries, and we're probably shifting to go to 96 hours. Not that we consider this to be a high risk, but just that we would always prefer to err on the side of caution. So it's a whole setup where we have materials, they do get checked in, so they do have to be handled by someone in gloves, and then they're put into bins, and those bins are labeled by date, and they're set aside so that we can ensure what by the time they're put back on the shelf or sent out to another library or given out to a patron, that they are safe. So we will also have to make sure once we have patrons inside the building that anything that they've touched that they don't check out also gets put in this quarantined bin process. So it's very grateful to have, you know, you read a lot of research about the virus, but this was something that was directly applicable to libraries and how libraries operate. So we fully intend to continue the current curbside and mail service that we're offering now. It's been extremely popular. We book up every week. This week we have some construction going on and we were not able to provide it, but we're already booked up for next week. It's a pretty labor intensive process. It's a very space intensive process. So we're looking at ways that we can maybe make that a little more efficient, a little quicker for staff, but it's definitely something we've got nothing but positive feedback from patrons about that, and we want to continue to be able to offer that so that people who don't need to come in, they don't feel comfortable coming in, would be able to access all of our library materials. So that is our plan, and I'm gonna stop sharing here and see if there's any questions.
Hi, Sheila. Thank you for the updates. I do have a few questions. As you know, we're looking to open up. Will you guys have like some type of employee like screening procedure when team members come in, kind of like a checklist to ensure they're not sick when they're entering?
So
I'll answer that, Taylor.
oh, thank you.
There's an entirely whole separate set of reopening policies coming out of the Human Resources Office. It hasn't been published yet, but I've seen the draft of it, and it does include measures for making sure employees come to work healthy and propose temperature checks and those kinds of things. So that's another very intensive document, separate from the libraries. I would apply citywide.
And then for patrons, obviously we wouldn't be able to put them through a questionnaire, but do we have signage, or can we get signage that says, you know, if you're sick and you have these symptoms, do not enter?
I noticed that at the Trader Joe's last time I was there, and yeah, we're still in the process of determining the signage. We want to make sure it's not overwhelming so that people do read it, but that seems like a good thing to include.
And then I know that the ordinance changes like so frequently. So for right now, it kind of looks like, you know, people shouldn't meet unless there's like 10 or 12 people at a time. And I know that it's different for businesses. So I know that the libraries would probably, you know, be handled like a business, but what's the plan for the capacity? Like, will we have like some type of like capacity worksheet that determines, you know, how many we're gonna let in at a time to ensure there's social distancing?
I think we're going to start off with utilizing an appointment system, which will necessarily, you know, keep the number to a certain capacity. It will probably be two capacities The public computers, which we've had to remove half of them in order to create the adequate 6 feet of space. And then for people who are browsing and other things, that yeah, definitely a smaller number of people. I think a library, unlike a business, sometimes people, they come in, they need a quiet space to read and study, and they will spend a full 8 hours in the library happily. And so it's relying on people to just naturally kind of come in, conduct their business, and leave. I think people could be waiting a lot longer. That's why we are proposing an appointment system, at least initially.
So for the appointment system, how many appointments are we taking at a time?
That's going to vary from library to library. One of the standard things people use is square footage of the facility. Libraries are different though, because there's stuff inside the building that will attract people, and people naturally cluster if they're all want, if they, 5 people want to get into the new fiction books. So it's going to take some monitoring. I don't know that we're going to come with an absolute number. It's going to be difficult, and I would recommend not using just square footage of the facility. But clearly, the Serramonte is going to be able to have more people in it than Bayshore, just because there's more space in there. But I don't know that we're going to have an absolute. I think it's going to, the absolute numbers will be easier for the computer uses because there is a fixed number of computers in there. But for the open stack areas, it might be a little bit more difficult to come up with that ideal number, and it may take time, trial and error, to find the sweet spot.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes that report, and I will end by saying, you're going to get the questions, when are libraries open? There is not a library open in San Mateo County. I don't know of any library open in the Bay Area, and I will go out on a limb and make this commitment. Daly City's libraries won't be the first to open. We'll open when it's safe, and I think what will happen is all the libraries will celebrate and open together, within the same week or so, when the time is right. And it's just not quite been the right time, especially the last couple of weeks have been really scary.
Are we going to keep the same hours through all the libraries? Same operation hours? And same days?
I wish I had that would be the ideal. It may be a matter of easing into the reopenings rather than just flipping the switch and everything's open the way it was. I will say staffing might be a little challenging at first because we've been closed so long. I'm gonna guess that we may have lost some of our regular part-time folks that have been out of work this entire time. They have maybe gone on to find other jobs. So as we have a target date in mind, we're gonna have to assess the resources we have to open all 4 libraries at once. But that would be the ideal, absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That was a really good presentation. I feel safe. It sounds like you guys covered everything, the sanitizing and everything.
And I will add too that as of today, every single budgeted full-time library position is filled, which that's miraculous. It's so rare in the last 8 years that we've actually had a full complement of staff. The unfortunate thing is the libraries are closed, but it does put us in a better position to open all 4 libraries, having all of the full-time positions filled.
Thank you.
Yeah, couple questions. Is it cool to get this presentation? I just want to have the notes. I think you all put something very easy to follow. It was really helpful, kind of short notes for any community questions we would get. And then I think in terms of, and I know I'm glad to hear that the opening is still in the future. I think there's still a lot going on. I think that's real. Just curious if you all are also thinking about something around like the air circulation, like keeping windows open as some of the precautionary measures to take. I've just been hearing from like other public places that that's something that folks are considering. I know for my organization, like opening our windows at the offices is some of the protocols. And that's also been recommended. So just curious if that's even possible for us to think about once we start opening libraries, at least for the first phase. I think
that's a really good suggestion. Even before the pandemic hit, we plan to replace the HVAC system at the Westlake Library. It's 15 years old. It was not doing a good job circulating air. We got 4 brand new air handling units on the roof of Westlake Library that should help that out. There's also some windows that can be opened at the back. The rest of the libraries, I think, don't have windows that open. Well, there's some high windows at the Bayshore Library. Excuse me, at the John Daly Library.
But
we
ceremony windows are non-operable, and
yeah,
but
for War Memorial, or excuse me, the John Daly Library, and for the Westlake Library, that's definitely something to consider. We're all looking forward to the day when the air is circulating through Westlake Library, and it's been a very long, painful construction project over at the Westlake Library. So,
would this presentation be available for the public to view it on our website, on the library website?
Sure.
Yeah, and the actual PowerPoint presentation is a link with, and it's not the most intuitive, it is in a link on the agenda from the city's website, but maybe we can place it in a more prominent place on the library part of the website. And then of course, if you didn't find it on the website, we can certainly email it out. And I don't know if the preference is email it as a PDF or an actual PowerPoint.
So the public, it doesn't have access, it has to be.
The public does have access to it. I think we just need to place it in a more prominent spot on the website where they'll find it. Because you got to kind of dig into the agenda and click on the link to open up the presentation. But it's there right now. It was there last week even, with the exception of the one update, because that information that Shayla gave you about the 96 hours is brand spanking new. It is the buzz. It is the buzz of libraries in the last 2 days, and it's very controversial. Some think 96 hours is too much, and they want to stick with the 72 hours. But it looks like the 96-hour people are winning the fight.
Can it be on a separate topic or separate subject, saying reopening procedures or something like that, so it will make it easier for the public to tap into it?
I think the name I think is a good, Plan for Reopening the Library. But I think it just needs to live somewhere where people will find it a little bit easier. And I think on the homepage of the library's website is probably a good place for it. And we'll share it with you. And I suppose if we could even incorporate it through social media and direct people to it.
My only concern is if people will think that we're starting this right now.
Yeah, the timing is kind of weird, because if we had a definite date to open, it would make more sense to let people know what they're in for. But yeah, Jill is right. We might be getting people's hopes up, like the library is going to open next week because we've got this plan. But yeah, maybe we'll stick with putting it somewhere accessible on the library webpage.
And we also have a document for people that are currently utilizing the curbside service that just kind of highlights the safety protocols that we're using for that, because people have asked. So we should probably include that as well.
For the tables, do you guys have dividers from one patron to another, like shield and stuff like that? I mean, glass, plastic, or whatever, like what they use it now?
No, we don't. We if you saw in the presentation, we did surround all of the counters, the main counters in the libraries. But in between public spaces, there are not dividers. And that's part of the reason we'll be having fewer computers, so that we don't have people sitting close together. That doesn't mean we won't get them in the future. It's something actually we've discussed. Might be a good time to segue into the next item. It is something we've actually discussed with the Daly City Public Library Associates about needs for making improvements to the library in wake of the pandemic.
There's a lot of businesses that have sensed an opportunity. So I regularly get emails advertising different solutions.
Yes.
But I know that materials are a little harder to come by because everyone's doing the same thing.
Okay, I think that concludes the report for reopening the library. President Logarta, meeting back to you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is a report from DCPLA. Welcome, Victoria. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. I just wanted to say that again, the board of directors of the DCPLA is just really impressed with everything that the library has done to step up for our community during this time. I know it hasn't been easy. So we've been trying to figure out ways that we could support that. And recently we've given 2 new grants to the library. We had a grant of $3,500 that was awarded to us by the Danford Fisher Hennig Foundation. And that is for the Summer Learning Challenge, the performers and everything that they've had quite a few impressive things. I've been paying attention and my kids are planning on doing the Harry Potter trivia. I think that's tomorrow night. So we've got that. And then we gave a second grant of $3,000 from that we're passing along that we earned from Philanthropic Ventures Foundation. And that's to provide additional Chromebooks and Wi-Fi hotspots available for checkout. If you remember, that is something that we had provided in the past, but Shayla let us know that, you know, there's even more demand now. And I would imagine if they are going to have to reduce the number of public use computers in the libraries, it'll be even more useful to get library Chromebooks and Wi-Fi hotspots that people can check out. So we got 3,000, which I think Shayla said will pay for around 6. And we are seeking additional funding as well, because I think the more we can get, the better. So, we really I imagine we couldn't have too many. As she said, they've gotten a lot of use. So everything that that we've already provided has been well utilized. And so we have also, we're really, because we can't do events right now, we're focusing on getting grants that we can give to the library to support all of this, including, like we said, the furniture. So, we're pursuing those. It's just a matter of spending as much time as we can to throw the net wide and see who we can find who is willing to, to listen to our case for why we need that. So we will definitely keep you abreast of the situation and let you know whenever we do secure some funds for that. So I think that's everything that I had, but thank you all for I know we're all giving thought to what we can do. Oh, one more thing. I've spoken to some of the trustees, as the DCPLA is not really in a position to make statements or, provide policy or anything, but as far as the Black Lives Matters movement, we are very much interested in if there are things that require funding, we would love to hear about them. We're open to any funding ideas, anything that the library, could use some help with. But in particular, that's something that I personally am interested in. So please do let us know if there is anything that you need extra funding that the city isn't able to provide. We would definitely at least hear it and see what we could do to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you so much for supporting us and helping us out with fundraising initiatives and even bringing some ideas to the table. Does anybody have any questions for Victoria?
I don't have any questions, but I did want to uplift some of the work that the librarians are doing that were uplifted earlier around like some of the anti-racism work. I feel like some of that, like even both like the library work and both the internal work that staff may need to better do the racial equity work that they want to do through the libraries. I think any resources we can direct there would be really helpful. Yeah, I think that's one idea. And then I'm also thinking about, I'm wondering, as we think about opening for COVID, I know it's going to be a while, but looking into the future, if there are is there a possibility some of these grants could go to support with that, whether it be, additional services to maintain like the cleanliness of our libraries and hygiene and maintain safety? Like, are those also possibilities for some of that grant money in response to COVID?
I think really, you know, anything that the library ever needs, they're more than welcome to present it to us, and you know, we'll see what we can do. So, you know, really, we're interested in anything that our library feels like would be beneficial to our community.
Thanks, Victoria. Because I'm
Maybe it
also
was,
thinking about what Teresa was saying of like those barriers and maybe some
yeah,
of
the
that can-
shields.
Yeah.
I mean, some of that I think the city is planning on providing, but if there's anything that is outside of the budget, we're definitely here to entertain any ideas.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
If I could navigate my computer. Something that I wanted to kind of bring to the table is how we could support remotely as trustees. So I, wanted to bring this up, and, feel free to chime in. Any ideas that you all have would be greatly appreciated. As we move on to this new normal of working remotely, supporting remotely, it doesn't mean that we can't interact, right? We've been doing the virtual meetings for some time now. So I just have a few ideas that I wanted to bring up. I know that Sarah is doing her video project, and she's actually asked me to, do a video for financial literacy. So I was gonna, really try to work on that. Even if it's not me, maybe getting a banker to help with that video. I remember, I believe it was Teresa saying that we should do kind of like a lesson on like wearing masks for like health and safety. So just wanted to see if anybody was up to make a video to help out with that. I think that that would be something in light of COVID that would really help Sarah. Anybody?
I know that Karen with her Baby Pounds story time
Mhm.
has done one on hand washing
Oh, cool.
with the
Yeah.
littlest one.
I think since now there's for the park and recs that they have some summer classes going on. I wonder if we can put in an idea to Mr. Kurenshi, since he's here with us too,
Mhm.
something that any of the class will like to promote that part, to have like a, like a fun way. I know it may be added to one of their programs that they're doing, like to have a quick clip, a mini clip of wearing a fun way to wear face coverings and hand washing.
Mhm.
Maybe have like a group to maybe compete, or to have some sort of incentive for, and we board of trustees, we can be the judge of that and see who's the winner, who will be the winner for that, and we can promote it.
Yeah, just something, just some ideas to kind of help Sarah out with, her project, and, promoting our new normal would be great. So we can kind of talk about that as well. Before we were visiting the libraries, that was, something that we regularly did. Since I joined the board, I found it very heartwarming to kind of, be able to speak to staff, see how the branches were running, be able to speak to patrons. We used to do like our coffee with trustees. So it sounds like it'll be a while before we get to actually visit the libraries. I know once we open up, we can definitely like make an appointment, but I want that time to really go to the patrons, right? And so I'm asking maybe like the trustees to still connect with Patricia, with Sarah, with Karen, right? And even Shayla, like remotely. Maybe we can set some time via Zoom, or even just like a phone call as a remote check-in. Would the trustees be up for that?
I'm just wondering what the check-in will be about.
It
Do
can
you
be
have any
about
specific
anything.
areas to cover?
I mean, we can talk about that, but I think more of it is more like for support, just to see if there's, because even though we can't visit, right, they still may have things on their mind that they may need our support with. And it doesn't even have to be, the frequency in which we were. I think we were trying to do it, once a month. It doesn't have to be that frequent, but just, to check in to see what support they need.
Would somebody provide it? I'm up for it, but for me, I would ask what their availability times and what time that it would be best to arrange that. And it's something that anybody will set a Zoom for me, or do I need to set the Zoom for any for anybody?
And ensure that it's Brown Act compliant, of course.
Yeah, I have no problem. I will love to reach out to. We just had to assign which library each of us will be able to check in with.
Yeah, just as added support. Another thing that I wanted to see if we were, we were very, involved in, community events pre-COVID. So I saw that the libraries went ahead and helped with the food drive. So I'd like to see if the trustees would like to volunteer alongside Miss Teresa in helping out. I think it's very important for us to support our community, and we can do it together. So just an idea to support that. How long is the food drive going to be continuing, Teresa?
Starting in August, we're only going to do. I was going to announce that second Saturdays and fourth Saturdays of the month. So starting in next month, that's where we're going to. Only 2 Saturdays a month. Most of our work, yeah, because most of the volunteers are back to work and they're working remotely from home. So we cut down to those 2 Saturdays, second Saturday and fourth Saturday.
Is that Bayshore or Jefferson?
Jefferson.
Yeah, if you can send us some invitations, Teresa, and then, see if we can all possibly join. Is it still the Thursday and Saturdays?
For
the food drive?
Yeah, we're still going. For this month, it's still Thursdays and Saturdays. So I can send you an invite right now to everybody. I'm going to invite everybody. You're free to welcome and come from 8 to 1.
Okay. So yeah,
so you're welcome to come anytime.
Awesome.
Thursdays and Saturdays.
So yeah, I'd encourage all of us to join Teresa in helping the community out. And it'd be nice if we could all go together at some point.
Thank you so much.
Let's see. Also, I'd also wanted to talk about, advocating for contributions to DCPLA. Victoria has been tremendous in supporting our efforts from fundraising to posting on social media. And I get, things in the mail from DCPLA. So I encourage all of the trustees to be advocates, getting friends and family, to sign up and really let them know the importance of what DCPLA does for the community. So just wanted to do that. If there's anything, if you want to post anything like recent, Victoria, we're happy to share that and then also encourage other people to donate as well. I wanted to talk about also the BLM statement. So did we want to create our own as trustees, or were we going to be aligned with, the live document that the Daly City Public Library has prepared and then just kind of, make edits?
I think for me, I would want to be aligned with the libraries. I feel like I feel like the libraries are who we represent and who we support. So for me, I feel very strongly about just working on that statement and making sure that our libraries feel ownership over it and just being like a strong advocate and ally with them. I agree with what Teresa was saying earlier about, our body is kind of different. And so I feel like our role is to be more in support of what the libraries are doing or giving feedback. And like putting out a strong solidarity statement, like I'm down to be really clear about putting in my endorsement for that statement. I think I just wanted to also name, I know you voted on it, but we didn't get a chance to hear from Trustee Ruvivar and Dallas earlier about the statement. So I would also love to hear you all's thoughts about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, like, I definitely want to be in line with the librarians as well. I do want to mention that the city council is having a special meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. about a Black Lives Matter resolution. And so I think it would be very, very helpful if we were able to attend and then see how we can also align with the city council or, like challenge them to, like have something that is more aligned with us as well. And so I definitely want to take a second look at that statement that the librarians have made, and then also attend the meeting tomorrow to just make sure that everything is solid and aligned with what we really value.
I agree. So, Joseph, do you recommend that we do a motion to approve aligning with the Daly City Public Libraries, or that endorsement prior to was enough?
I think the endorsement
Okay.
was
Yeah.
sufficient. I think it's kind of implied.
Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and move on to announcements and communications. Do we have any additional announcements or communications? I know we're right at time, but what have you got?
Oh, I want to introduce again Selena Torona, who has become an absolute social media superstar in the past few weeks. And I want her to share with you what she's been doing to represent the library in Daly City across the world. She's amassed a huge following with the program she's running. And she looks very nervous, but I'm gonna turn to her and let her share her success with you.
Okay, hi. Justina, I'm seeing your stuff. It is me and Patricia, to be clear. Patricia is our fearless leader with communications and does such an excellent job with everything that we do. So yeah, definitely pointing her out too. I'm mostly on the Facebook side, but yeah, so last month or about a month ago today, I started doing a bilingual kwentuhan on our Facebook. So it's been a bilingual Tagalog English story time, kind of featuring some children's songs and books from the library's collection. And, speaking of ways that you guys can get involved, if you guys, have any interest in participating with that, in case you guys are familiar with any of the songs or stuff that I do, I would be totally welcome to having you guys read a book or something. Tagalog is not my first language, so it is rough, but yeah, I'd be happy to have anyone join in. I recently reached out to TFC because they just picked up a program called the Bahay Book Club, where they are spotlighting Filipino American authors and the books that they have made. So I'm looking into that. I'm trying to like reach out to any groups in the area. So I've tried checking with Undiscovered. I've gone on a couple of Filipino groups locally and on Facebook to kind of get that connection there. So if you guys have any ideas for how I could further engage with, you know, our Filipinx community, I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, that first story time got over 8,000 views. So yeah.
Clearly, it struck a chord with the community, definitely. So
She
you
plays
can help.
ukulele, she sings, it's entertaining, it's fun to watch. My Tagalog is not that great either, but I find it very entertaining to watch. So I would definitely, if you haven't seen it, I would definitely encourage you to take a peek.
The first and third Saturday, so it doesn't interfere with the food distribution.
Are there any other languages that we can tap into as well?
Yeah, there's all kinds of languages spoken in Daly City. I think there's 48 or so languages spoken here.
I mean, we're talking about Black Lives Matter.
Right. Yeah,
You
to try to
know,
be more inclusive.
so
I hear you loud and clear.
all colors matter.
Absolutely.
So we have a resolution. I feel that what we preach is what we need to teach.
I agree.
And what we teach is what we need to preach. And we need to walk it. So that's a really good example. I appreciate you, Selena. That's really beautiful. But at the same time, I feel left out for my language that nobody has reached out to even do any, or the Chinese or the Burmese or any other languages that we have there. We should acknowledge all those languages.
I agree. And we'll certainly work on coming up with a platform. You know, our staff is incredibly diverse and talented and wonderful, and what Selena's doing is amazing, and the success it's having is amazing. We do have other bilingual staff that might engage. We have done Chinese and Spanish before, but you know, we're kind of limited. We don't have a Samoan speaking staff person on, but we have one on the board of director trustees, so we can certainly.
I was not asked. All we have to do is ask.
I think I'm asking you right now. Will you work
well,
with
because
us?
I mentioned if I didn't say it, nothing will be asked.
Yes, no, you consider yourself asked. We'll see if we can come up with a plan to, and not just Samoan, but yeah, clearly there's lots of.
We have Tongans, we have Brazilians that is
Yes.
dominating Daly City.
Yeah, absolutely.
Portuguese, Spanish.
It's a melting pot. It's fun to go through the stores and listen to all the languages spoken here. It's really, I think that's one of the coolest things about Daly City is its diversity. And yes, we've got a long ways to go, but I don't want that to take away from the fact that Selena is doing an amazing job. And I think she's setting the bar high for all those who follow, but you know, there's plenty of room.
I think just to uplift too, like that BLM statement did have something about community partnerships. So, you know, I think if that's a commitment that we're making moving forward, I think it's an opportunity to start building on those community partnerships. And I think if there's some support wanted from the libraries to figure out what those partnerships could be, I want to propose maybe we can have that as a conversation at the next trustee meeting to really just put out some ideas out there, or, you know, just like pull from our networks and give some suggestions on who the library can partner with, especially around language access.
That's a fine idea.
I agree.
Yeah, you know, we try, but clearly we fall short in representing every language spoken in Daly City. That's definitely something to work towards. A couple other announcements. One, this is going to be my last ever Board of Trustees meeting. I'll be retiring before you guys meet again. So I just want to take this time to thank you guys. You've been an amazing bunch. I love your commitment to Daly City. Keep up the good work. And the other thing I wanted to say is Stephen Stolte is also sitting very quietly, and he's going to talk about the month of August and the transition after my departure. Take it away, Stephen.
All righty. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Stolte. I'm the Assistant City Manager. I know some of you, I don't know some of you all that well, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you better over the next few months. So Joseph is retiring in September. That gives us a little bit of time here to work on the transition. I'm here at your meeting to let you know that the City Manager's office is going to support your commission, your board, after Joseph retires. So we're here for you. I know that we're definitely going to miss Joseph. He's been here for a very long time with Daly City and has so much knowledge about the history of our city and just, our organization in particular. So we're really going to miss him. But I want to reassure all of you that you're going to be supported even after he retires. So whether it's me or my colleague Leilani Ramos, we'll be here at your meetings to help you out. And we're also going to eventually be recruiting a replacement for Joseph, but we're not going to do it right away. We're going to take a really measured approach, especially given the pandemic. So maybe next year, early next year, we'll open that recruitment. But really, in the meantime, reach out to us in the City Manager's office. I hope we can talk frequently, email, phone, whatever is convenient for you, and we'll support you. For August, I do want to make the announcement that we are not having any city council meetings. We're not going to have any commission meetings. We're not going to have any board meetings. We're going dark that month. And it's just really important for us in the city to have a little respite at this time. And I hope that we can just follow the lead of the city council and go dark that month with the library board too. And we'll pick right back up in September. Fresh right then and there. But really my message today is that please reach out to me if you need something, and I can share my contact information with you all through Joseph, and that your board will continue. You'll just have different faces joining your meeting going forward. Are there any questions or anything?
Can you, Trustee Doss mentioned the meeting tomorrow, the City Council, and I understand you have to be pre-registered to participate. So can you just maybe describe how to go about that process?
So typically our City Council meetings, we have partnered with a company called OpenGov that allows for online public comment. This special meeting tomorrow, the Zoom is going to be open to the public. So if you do want to join, just remember to register in advance. You'll get a special personalized link. So just don't wait for 30 seconds before the meeting to do that. Just make sure that you sign up, and all the information has been posted on our social media with the link on where to register. But if you need it, I can give it to you as well.
Thank you, Stephen. Joseph, I can't believe it. When I joined this board, you were very influential for me, and you've always been there to support us and help us out, understand things when we didn't, and so just wow, and thank you, and congratulations. You have served Daly City for how long now? Putting you on the spot.
It'll be a little more than 24 years.
Oh, wow. 24 years. And
7 of the best years of my life. No, it's a bad joke.
I remember seeing your kids at like the meetings, right? Accompanying you everywhere. When I was signing up for like a hall, I remember you, trucking your daughter along. So no, I know your family's totally grown up in this area, and we wish you well. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you so much.
And I know I'm off the agenda, but I'm just, I'm so grateful to have met you, and we appreciate everything you've done for us.
Thank you, President Lagarta. And yeah, I will say that you've met my kids, and that's really what pushed this decision. The future being so uncertain and leaving them home pretty much alone all summer. And with distance learning at school about to start, I just want to be there for them. And the fact that I can be there for them, I'm very grateful for the opportunity. to support my family.
And
Thank you all.
congratulations, Joseph, on this
Thank you.
decision and this next chapter for you.
Thanks.
Well,
I
I'm
read-
glad I read to you for the last time, Mr. Corin, at St. Robert's.
That I think, you know,
Yeah.
that I will say this is a true story. I ran into Trustee Faupua at a place that neither of us, I
Yeah.
think, it was like the universe talking to me, that I was there for somebody else's retirement thing, and the words that were spoken about knowing when the time is right really resonated with me. And then I'm standing there in deep thought, and Commissioner Faupua, it was so unreal. It was surreal even. And that was
thank
almost
you.
the instant that I had my decision made, because it just seemed like the universe was trying to direct me to that decision.
Well, I thank you for your service. I think I've only known you since I came on board, and I appreciate your knowledge and especially the history of Bayshore
Mhm.
that you gave us over there at the Boys and Girls Club when we met. That was amazing, and I never knew. And I'm grateful that you were able to share that, because now it makes me feel proud as a Bayshore resident, you know, to know that. And all that knowledge that you have about the history of Daly City and especially Bayshore, it's beautiful. So congratulations, and wherever your next destination is, may the Lord be with you and your family. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we are over time, but before we go, I'd like to start the agenda building for our next meeting in September. So I want to put on the agenda first Justine's idea of ideas to support partnership. You mentioned partnership with language access, but did you want to make it a little bit more specific, Justine?
No, I think I just wanted to address some of the feedback and made sure we had some space for that. I'm definitely open to broadening if there are other types of partnerships that the library would be interested in. But definitely want to focus in on the language access part because of all the feedback today.
Thank you. Next on the agenda building, I want to make sure that we talk about the COVID updates. Too much, as you know, updates are coming fluidly. I want to make sure that we have a conversation on kind of where we're at that time. I also would like to talk about the BLM statement. Just in case there are some edits to it, we can reread it. And like Joseph said, it's a live document, so we can make changes to it. So if we can talk about that as well. And then also some follow-up to some things that I've mentioned. You know, as we're talking about partnerships, any contributions to Sarah's video project would be really helpful. Also, you know, volunteering, following up on that, on how we are supporting Teresa, and also a follow-up on, you know, how we're supporting DCPLA. So that's all I have. Does anybody have anything else to add? No, sounds good. Okay, so at 7:16, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Before you
Thank you,
adjourn, I just
Joseph.
want to say we skipped over public comment.
Yeah,
And
see?
I have
What are we
been,
gonna do without you?
I've been monitoring the Open Town Hall portal, and I would report there are no public comments, but I didn't want to skip over that item. That's all. Now you can adjourn.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. We appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. See you in September.